anybody who can't hear me in the back? So sometimes when I'm talking and going about such things as today, my voice will be very calm and I'll lose track and I'll project as well. So please just raise your hand and wave at me, or if I don't notice, go ahead and shout out if you can't hear me. So to begin with, we'll do a bit of a meditation here. And but prior to that, if you'd like to join me, I'm going to do what in one of the traditions that I follow is a form of karma yoga. And as described in the Bhagavad Gita, the essence of karma yoga is to offer up the fruits of one's actions. Yes? And so I call that act of the giving from the true heart, I call that act the consecration, to make an offering of it. Yes? And so I'm going to take a moment now to go about doing that, and I'll kind of guide us through that if you'd like to do that with me. Yes. Mm-hmm. And so, first thing is simply becoming aware of the sensations arising in your body right now. Mm-hmm. Just the tangible, actual sensations arising right now in your body. Mm-hmm. Yes. Coming to rest there in the body. And now moving inward. Shifting your perspective inward to your center. To that still and quiet place there. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And now offering this up, offering all of this up, the consecration in and of and through the light. Very good. Now sitting relaxed with your eyes closed, focusing in the center of your chest, Mm-hmm. This is the abode of what the yogis call anahata, the heart chakra. Mm-hmm. Yes. Also called by the great ones, the rishis, it was also called the unstrikable, the unbreakable. They were speaking of the true heart. The true heart. It's the same as it ever was. Was the same before you came into this body, and it will be the same when you leave the body. The true heart. Bringing the focus of your mind there to the sensations you can feel in the body, in your mid-chest. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And now, as your body is breathing in, and your body is breathing out. You can become aware of an inflow of energies. There is that wonderful energy come rising up from the earth herself, from the mother. That energy comes flowing up through the feet and through the legs, comes rising up through the root chakra, flowing up into the mid-chest, into anahata. Mm-hmm. With every inhalation, you can feel her energy come flowing up into your mid-chest. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, with every inhalation, the light comes down in through the double there. The light comes down in through the double of the head, flows directly down into the mid-chest. every inhalation, the light comes flowing in from above and below into the mid-chest. And with every exhalation, you can give it away. You can breathe that light out through your heart chakra into the world. With every inhalation, those energies come flowing into the mid-chest. And with every exhalation, you can breathe them out into the world. That healing energy first flowing out to those closest to you. Those closest to you in physical proximity. And then closest to you in your DNA, your physical ancestry and immediate family. Going out through all time and all worlds, the past, present, and future, all at once. And then going out to all those you hold dear in your heart, all those that you love. Breathing it out to all of them. And breathing it out to all those you do not love. Breathing it out to all those you do not love. So that everyone is included. Everyone is included. And now at this moment, if you are aware of any aspects of yourself, any parts of yourself that feel left out, not included, it might be shadow parts of you, parts that you'd rather not look at, that you want to just go away. You're aware of any of these parts of yourself. Invite them forward before you. And now opening that heart even wider. Opening that heart even wider. Bring all these aspects of yourself into your heart. Bring them home where they belong. Bring them home. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that will do. Opening your eyes when you're ready to. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that was an example, in some way, of what I'm talking about today, which is atonement. That was an example today of what I'm talking about, which is atonement. Mm-hmm. Atonement, if you look it up, it goes back to a very simple idea of being at oneness. Yes? Being at oneness. There's all kinds of theological teachings about atonement. For those of us who grew up within various churches within the Christian tradition, you're probably familiar with some of those teachings about how Christ atoned for everyone's sins by dying upon the cross. And then that can get into a lot of baggage about all kinds of things that a lot of us were brought up with. But there's many different ways from many different traditions to understand atonement. Mm-hmm. And for myself, I was really blessed to encounter a tradition of the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. Mm-hmm. And before you worry, this isn't going to be a 12-step talk. I just wanted to say that that's the truth about one of the most powerful ways that I learned about atonement. And in that tradition, they don't call it atonement, they call it making amends, which is basically getting to the same place. Yes? And we all know from when we were very young, just as little children and in kindergarten, if you make a mistake or you hurt somebody, yes, you make amends by doing something, by at the very least saying you're sorry, yeah, yes, that you try to make up for it. There's a mending. That's where the word amends, like atonement, has the root meaning to be at one. Amends has a root meaning of mending. You're mending something that was torn asunder. Yes? And in the 12-step tradition, there's a very particular way you go about it when making amends or atoning for wrongs that you've done. And I love this part of the tradition, that there's very specific instructions that you make amends whenever possible, that to do so will not harm that person or yourself. Yes? Because sometimes we can get really on fire with sort of a spiritual fervor that we want to, fix this problem, and then we just end up making it worse. And we're not really atoning, we're just doing it for some egoic reasons so that we can feel better. That's one of the risks in the spiritual path, of doing things just to make ourselves feel better, like we're doing it right, instead of really taking the time to become quiet, to become silent and really contemplate what it would mean to make an atonement, if it has to do with another individual. Mm-hmm. And then to talk to somebody you consider wise, somebody you respect, to talk to them about what your ideas of making an atonement or an amends might be before you do it. Yeah? And then if it's something really big in your life, like maybe there was something really traumatic you went through and you finally got to the point on your spiral journey through this spiritual adventure, that now is the time that I need to make this right. Maybe the right thing to do would be to simply write them a letter, this person, just to see if they'd be open to having that discussion. Because even though you're ready for it on your journey, on your spiral, doesn't mean they'll be ready. Yeah? Mm-hmm. Yeah. But you becoming ready in your practice, in your growth, and you becoming more and more spiritually mature in this lifetime, that's creating another type of atonement. Just your willingness to do it, your willingness to explore this idea of atonement or making amends, is a spiritual practice in and of by itself. Yes? You're working on that, contemplating that, dedicating some time to exploring in what parts of your life, whether it's from the distant past or the present, where that might be something needed. That brings about an atonement within yourself. Yes? This is extremely powerful as a practice, a spiritual practice. Yeah? It's by looking outwardly and becoming willing by doing that work, an atonement occurs within you. You might not be ready the first time. It kind of goes hand in hand with a form of self-forgiveness. And it may not happen right away. You might need to come back to it again and again. Yes? That's been my experience in this lifetime. For a long period of my life, I thought that making amends or making atonement, which goes hand in hand with the forgiveness, meant that once I did it, it was done. Sort of like if I broke a bone, then I put the cast on and it was mended, and then I never had to worry about it again because the bone was healed. But being a human being, maybe a few weeks later or months later, an old resentment would pop up about that same thing. Yes? And then I would think, and then I'd want to suppress that, because like, why am I even having that? I've already worked that out. Why is this coming up again? And so I'd get into this perfectionist mindset that I hadn't done it right or something. And it took me a really long time to realize that as a human being, these forgiveness things, these letting go, these making amends levels, that deep healing where there's been woundings inside of us, that sometimes there's layers that peel off, or maybe we really did forgive and we really did make an atonement, both externally and internally, but that was at a certain level, a certain layer, and further on the journey, we come to another level, another layer, and it peels back and exposes some more tender, wounded spots, and I have to go back to it and work on it again. And that's just part of being human, like with eating. It's not that I eat that meal and then I'm done and I don't have to eat again. After a while, I'm going to get hungry again, and I got to eat again. And it's not that I'm broken. It's just that that's the way it works. Yeah, it's the same thing with it's a messy business being a human. It is. Yeah.
It's a messy business.
A messy business being a human. It is. We like everything, most of us like things to be well ordered and kind of clear cut so that we can make sense of it. Yeah? But it's not often that way when it comes to this real deeper work on the spiritual journey. And all of you are coming here because at different levels and at different stages that you're at in your own particular path, you're really wanting to be in harmony. Yeah? With your inner world and your external world, yeah? And my tradition primarily is that of an Eastern tradition of yogic practices, about coming into alignment and being in harmony, yeah? That along with the 12 steps, and this atonement seems like it's a very Western sort of idea to atone, and how the Christian tradition is about sort of the blood sacrifice. But in the Eastern way of looking at things, the atonement is one between what I call the egoic mind, this mind that we're using to navigate our daily life, and our true heart, what oftentimes in the West is called your soul, or that the yogis call the Atman, yeah? Which is the spark of the divine. It's the wave upon the ocean of God. Yes? That wave has arisen. It is each and every one of us is a wave. Yeah? And the egoic mind, this mind that we're navigating the world with, it's a little bit defective. This is how the yogis understand it. It's just a little bit defective. You don't get all wrapped up in the original sin and it's this sinful, horrible thing. It just doesn't quite work right. Yeah? And so we need to have practices or be amongst other people who are really also working on their spiritual journey for us to bring this mind more in alignment with the true heart. With the true heart. Yes? Because we're human beings, and it's just the way that things function, is that we distort things with our thinking about them. Yeah? But if we can become quiet and go down into that true heart, it will become more and more apparent what we might need to do to bring the mind more in harmony with what the heart is. That's the internal atonement that happens when you keep focused on your journey and where you need to make external, small amends or big amends. Your internal atonement becomes stronger and stronger, and you become more willing and more willing to face whatever the external difficulties or challenges might be. Yeah. Yeah. I went through what the Catholics call a dark night of the soul, and I suffered. Yeah. was, for me, an epitome of the opposite of atonement. Yes. Where the distance between my heart and my mind seemed so vast and so great that I couldn't feel the light at all. It was like the switch went off and I could no longer feel God's light or God's love. And it was after I had traveled overseas to India and really gone deep into my practice. And for me, it lasted for almost a decade. And the last year or so was really bad. I couldn't even feel my heart. You know, the warmth you feel in your heart when you love someone. I don't have words for how miserable I was. And I don't know why, but it never occurred to me to kill myself. I don't know why, but it didn't. Some good karma from a previous lifetime. But I just had to endure for some reason. And when I came out the other side of that, and when I came back to the world, one of the blessings when the light came back to me was an understanding that I didn't do anything, that I hadn't done anything to make the light come back, that it was just a blessing. The harder thing to accept that I didn't do anything to enter into that dark night either, that that's just what happened. But that was harder to come to terms with, to not blame myself. But that light came back and I started coming back to doing this kind of work where I would be helpful to people in the world. And one of the great blessings that spending that long period of time there, which for a good number of years I spent in a lot of isolation, not interacting with people, is my understanding of what was my stuff and what was other people's stuff became really clear. Where I grew up really, really sensitive, aware of everybody's energy all the time. And so to have that clear understanding where my energy leaves off and where other people's begin, and the blessing of facing that dark place within myself directly, gave me some gift of blessing that there was some meaningfulness in it, and that now I can face other people's stuff without cringing away, without being disturbed by the suffering that they might be going through. And that is really the greatest blessing, that through that suffering that I went through, it gives me some strength to be helpful from time to time for people. And so I know that everybody here in some large or some small way is suffering right now. And I want you to know that last night I prayed for each and every one of you. And I did this morning. And I wish all of you peace. Yes. I wish all of you peace. Yes. And I'm so glad to be here with you, sharing this awareness of the love, light, and grace that is here now in us and with us. So I appreciate all the work, the spiritual work that you all are doing to bring your light into the world in a good way. I want you to know that I can see it. And it is a beautiful thing. Yes. Well, thank you for having me.